it's time to look at my embarrassing eyeshadow palette collection. Come on, let's go. Come on, let's look at it. Don't judge me. I keep all of my eyeshadow palettes in this little side drawer. Don't mind the dirt everywhere. My cats got into my big plant last night. I ran out of room, so here's all my Pat McGrath palettes, and then I have like all of my smaller palettes on top in here, and I mean it's packed. On the bottom here I have larger palettes, and there's more in the back as well. I honestly cannot believe that I'm actually finally filming this. Look at this little pooch. Who's got the mom belly? Just me? I'm being super real and raw with y'all right now. I'm gonna be honest, like a lot of these I've only used once or just swatched, and they've just sat in my collection, or I haven't even used them. This whole thing was jam-packed with makeup. Now just these two are done. I'll show you guys at the very end when I'm done decluttering if you're interested. Now I didn't film me decluttering everything else. I didn't film it, sorry. I thought that it would be kind of boring, and honestly I'm not a makeup channel anymore, so I'm surprised I'm even filming the eyeshadow palette declutter, but I love watching eyeshadow palette declutters, so I'm like, of course I'm gonna film it, even though I'm not a makeup channel anymore and haven't been for so many moons. But let me get the rest of these palettes out. I'll show you all of the palettes, and then we'll start like going through them. I'm probably gonna swatch a lot of them just so y'all know, so if you're interested in swatches of the palettes as well as what you know is inside each palette, then we'll go over that. So this is gonna be a pretty lengthy video probably, so grab a drink, grab a snack, look at my little and yeah, let's get the rest of these palettes out and like do an overview because it's so much. Here are all my palettes on my desk. My desk is huge, and these are like hanging off the side. Yes, I'm standing on a chair. Oh, so many boxes. Why am I like this? Over 50 palettes. I counted them like 4 times and kept losing count, but I know there's at least 50. 50 makeup palettes. Who needs that much? Who needs that many makeup palettes? Nobody. I think I've procrastinated enough. Let's get into the swatches and the palettes. First up, we have the Artist Couture Supreme Nudes palette. This palette is absolutely, hola! This palette is absolutely stunning. I haven't tried anything else from Artist Couture, but this palette made me want to. It's so pretty. The mattes blend beautifully. The shimmers are so metallic and flaky, which I appreciate. I love a good shimmer. And there's just like all your basic everyday neutrals. I love that the mirror bends all the way back. The sleek packaging is beautiful. Definitely going to hold on to this. If you tried anything else from Artist Couture, their eyeshadows, let me know. Did you love them? Did you hate them? Definitely recommend this. I did see their Mauves palette didn't get great reviews because I almost picked that up. Ew, I just spit. But definitely a good palette. All right, this one, oh, I'm so torn on. This is the Escape Pod palette by Kaleidos. I really love, hate this packaging, I'm gonna be honest. I really love the colors in this palette. The shimmers are out of this freaking world. They're so beautiful. These purples are really beautiful as well. They're just so freaking stunning. These mattes are so soft and beautiful as well. Like, oh, look at that color. They blend really nicely. The issue is that this packaging is so bulky that I almost never reach for it because of that. Maybe it's just because I'm so overwhelmed. I think I'm gonna keep this though and see if I use it more once I have less. Have you tried this palette? If you have, what did you think of it? I do really love these purples in here. Like, they're just so pretty in these shimmers. Like, I would keep it just for the purples and the shimmers, to be honest. A palette I do think that I'm gonna declutter is from Kaleidos. This is the VR Neon. This is really pretty. The shimmers in here are really pretty. You can see I've done damage on that orange one. They're so chunky and beautiful. And these mattes are really nice too, but I'm gonna be honest, like these more neon colors by Midas, they look super pigmented, like by finger swatches and everything, but on the eyes they kind of either blend away, they're patchy, or they don't last throughout the day, the mattes. So I'm gonna declutter this. I had this sent to me from LaBeouf Cosmetics. I don't even know if they're around anymore, but she sent me this forever ago, and it is just so old. These shimmers are really pretty. They're nothing to like cry home about, but they are really beautiful. The mattes were really pretty in here. I just never used it, and the shadow's broken, so I might depot the rest of these shadows and put it in one of the several magnetic palettes that I have and give it to somebody. I'll just clean up these other shades and get rid of the black, because I think that would make a really pretty palette for somebody. Nothing wrong with it, I just don't use it and it's old. All right, next up we have the BH Cosmetics Blueberry Muffin Palette. And honestly, I love this palette. I think that it's so beautiful. The shimmers in here are outstanding. They're gorgeous. The mattes in here are so buttery. They're so pigmented. They blend like a dream. They're beautiful all over the eye. They last forever on the eye. I haven't used this a ton because I don't use a lot of blues in my eyeshadow looks, but when I go for like a blue toned look, I reach for this palette. So good, so underrated. I have another blue toned palette. Well, I have a few other blue toned palettes in my collection that I'm gonna look at, but I really do thoroughly love this one, and I know it's like a favorite for a lot of people. Let me know if there's any other BH Cosmetics palettes I should try out, because if they're like this, I want them all. Plus the packaging is super cute. Next up is the Lime Crime Prelude palette. This palette is super beautiful. I bought this last year when I went into the city. I actually got to go into Ulta and like look at palettes, and I saw this and it caught my eye because of these two colors right here, these deeper tones. And I just love these other shades in here. I'm gonna be honest though, like all the hype that Lime Crime gets, like look at that. It's nothing special, and I'm gonna be honest, I feel like somebody else could get a lot more use out of this than I can. The mattes just kind of blend away to nothing in this palette. The shimmers are hit and miss. They get hard pan super easily. Like I've only used this once and I'm already getting hard pan on this like white shade here, which is like a topper, but it's already getting hard pan. So I'm gonna declutter this. Oh my gosh, I don't know how I got suckered into this launch. This is the Laura Lee Erin Weaver, which is her niece, I think, that she took in. This is the Candy Skies collection, and I bought this whole collection, y'all. Like, I was sold on this. I was like, ooh, a pastel palette. That is like, it's calling me. I don't have a good pastel palette in my collection. The issue is these look really pigmented when you swatch them and everything, but on the eye, they just like disappear. And it really makes me sad. I'm kind of interested if any of you guys have tried the Natasha Denona pastel palette, because that has had my eye. The shimmers in here are really pretty, but there's nothing unique about them. Like this purple one is super pretty too, but there's nothing super unique about them to make me like, that purple is so pretty. But it's not unique enough, and I have other colors like this in my collection. I would just have to reach for multiple palettes. And I feel like somebody else could get a lot of use out of this. Like my niece would probably love this palette. So for that, I'm going to declutter it. Oh, this next one is so hard for me. This is the Butte Bean Shroud. It's a freaking Bats eyeshadow palette. If you bought this during launch, you waited forever for this. I waited months and months and months and more months for this palette. It is so beautiful. I love the color story. I get a very unique look every time I use this. The mattes are so pigmented, so buttery, so creamy. The shimmers are so fantastic. It's such a beautiful formula. I just don't reach for it a ton, but I definitely think I want to hold on to it because I don't have anything else quite like this in my collection. And the mattes truly do blend out beautifully. The shimmers are absolutely gorgeous. And for that, I'm going to keep this palette. Plus, I love a Butte Bean. Also, when I bought the Lime Crime palette that I decluttered, I bought this Essence one from Ulta, Ice Ice Baby. So last year, I have not used this. I've swatched it. It swatches really nice. I've heard really great things about these. I called it a quad, but it's actually 6 shadows. It's super pretty. I like that this is a little bit more cool tone than the Blueberry Muffin palette by BH that I decided to keep. It's like more gray toned blues, and I really like that with the silvers. So I think I'm gonna keep it just to hold on to it. I wanna try it out at least, and it was like $3 or $6. It was super cheap, maybe $4. So it's not nothing that I can't get rid of after. My daughter loves blue, so I could give this to her if I end up using it and not liking it, or I find myself not using it at all and it just sitting in my collection. So I am gonna hold on to this. Let me know if you've tried any of the other 6-pan shadow eyeshadow palettes from Essence like this, and if you have any favorites. Oh my gosh, this palette brings back memories. This is the Dose of Colors Desi and Katie Friendcation palette. This palette was everything. I bought this palette, decluttered it, and then rebought it. Like, I bought this palette twice, I'm not even kidding. A part of me doesn't want to declutter it because it is so pretty. These shimmers are so gorgeous, like this black shimmer and then this blue purple shimmer. They're so gorgeous. The mattes blend really nice in this, and they're super rich and creamy, but they still blend. And the thing with me, like, now that I'm getting older and my arthritis and my hands is getting worse, I don't want to spend a ton of time blending. But I'm gonna be honest, like, even though these shimmers are so pretty, they crease really bad on the eyes, and I just never reach for it. And I feel like my daughter would like appreciate this a lot more, so I'm gonna pass it on to her. It's weird too that I like bought this palette, decluttered it, and then bought it again too, because I never watched Desi or Katie on YouTube. Let me know if you were a fan of them, but I never did. So I always thought that it was funny that I was so drawn to this palette. It's just really pretty because you got your neutral browns and then these like really pretty jewel toned shimmers. So it definitely had its place, and I definitely got a lot of use out of it, obviously. But bye-bye. Oh, this next palette hurts me. I bought this. This is the Lunar Beauty Black Magic Carnival palette. The packaging is everything on this. It's so gorgeous. I saw this and I was so drawn to it. These pops of color are so pretty, and these rustic browns, and then these shimmers are so gorgeous. They're nothing like color wise out of this world, but they're just so pretty. I'm not even gonna swatch these because I don't think I ever used them. Maybe I swatched them, but I don't think I've ever used this palette, ever. I always get drawn in by these pops of color, like these really bright colors, but this color honestly looks horrible on me, like these bright pinks, and I don't know, I just never reached for it, so I'm gonna pass it on to somebody that will appreciate it more. There's nothing wrong with it, it's just not something I ever reached for. Crystal Break. Isn't she pretty? All right, so let's talk about this. The e.l.f. Jake Kissa to the Rescue palette. Oh my gosh, I have some thoughts on this little sucker here. I honestly kept this because I already put stickers on it. I still have the stickers it came with because I'm a weirdo and I keep the boxes for everything. I actually reviewed this palette. Oh, that's the purple shadow that's everywhere. I reviewed this palette back when it came out because I'm a huge, or was a huge, Jake Kissa fan. I did not like this palette. I know a lot of people really did like it. You can tell, like, I barely used it. The darker shades were super patchy on me. The shimmers are like nothing to write home about. Like, they're nothing special. To be honest, I'm probably gonna chuck this now that this is broken because it's so old, and I just, maybe my kid will like it, I don't know, but I didn't like this. I didn't like it back then. I tried to use it again, didn't like it. A lot of these shades are so similar. Like, she could have done without this whole row, in my opinion. Well, maybe like these three. I kind of wish this could have easily been half this, in my opinion. But I don't know, did anyone like this? I feel like a lot of people did. I just didn't. Now, one from e.l.f. I am keeping is this little 4-pan palette. This is the Hot Jalapeno palette. This palette's great for travel. I love green eyeshadow. It complements me so well. Now, the mattes in here aren't super crazy pigmented or anything. The shimmers are really beautiful, but it is a perfect like travel palette if you want something that's not super neutral, a little bit different. Definitely keeping this. They're like $3. They're so good. They have so many different color stories. Highly recommend these. Definitely keep. All right, let's get into my my Natasha Denona palettes. I know I'm keeping all of these. I have the Circle Loco, the Retro, and the Mini Retro. Actually, Andrea, I can't remember her name, but she talked me into this, and then she talked me into this one. So this is the Mini Retro palette. This is so pretty. I know that it looks like nothing. I take this traveling with me. It is so beautiful. The mattes in here are beautiful. Again, it doesn't look like anything special, but I promise you, on the eyes, it just looks so gorgeous. I took this with me to Florida along with another palette I'll talk about in a few minutes. I wore this one more than my go-to travel palette when I traveled to Florida a few months ago. It's so pretty, so good. The quality is there. Love this. Definitely keeping. I think we established I'm already keeping all of these. Then we have the Natasha Denona Retro palette. I have a love-hate with this. I really do love the eyeshadows in here. This one has already gotten hard pan on me a few times. Like you can see there's like hardly any pigment there, and it's such a beautiful color, so I have to like scrape in there to get any pigment. And I've had that with a few of the shades in this palette, which is very weird to me. The shimmers are really beautiful. I love Natasha Denona's shimmers. I really like this palette. I just wish there wasn't hard pan on it, especially for the price, but I am gonna hold on to it and keep her. And then last but not least of the Natasha Denona, we have the Circo Loco palette. I freaking love this palette. It is so freaking beautiful. Like this palette is the one that makes me want to try the pastel palette. The mattes in here are so pigmented. They blend so beautifully. Even these more like pastel colors. This bright orange with this purple looks so stunning together. The shimmers are absolutely gorgeous. It lasts forever on the eyes. Now this shade, I started having hard pan issues with, again, which frustrates me, but I was able to reconcile it, however you say that, to where it performs again. But oh my gosh, I tell you, this palette, I feel like this palette didn't get the hype it deserves. Like I didn't hear anyone talking about it, and it's such a good palette. So beautiful, so much diversity in this palette. Like you can come up with so many different looks with the tones in this palette as well. I love that it has like the pops of color with the more pastel colors in here. You get a really beautiful like true silver. You get these beautiful jewel tones. It's just so pretty. There's like these pretty teal colors. Oh, this is, if I could be a color story, this would be my color story. It's so beautiful. Maybe with some more greens though. All right, let's get into my stack of Midas Cosmetics. Midas Cosmetics, oh, I want to love this brand. But I'm going to be honest, I wasn't super blown away by their stuff. This is the Macchiato Green Tea Matcha palette. It's just a little 4-quad palette. The mattes are fine in here. The shimmer is pretty, but it's nothing unique. None of these shadows are unique, really. I thought this would be great for travel. I might still hold on to this, to be honest with you, just because, like, when I look at my travel palettes, they're not, I don't have anything quite like this. Like I do have neutrals, but I don't have like a deep green, and I don't have a shade like this. So I actually might hold on to this one, because this is the one I was the most impressed with out of all 3 of these, to be honest, was their mini palette. But we'll get into these too. Oh, so I love Smoky Glow. She's always been such an inspiration to me on YouTube, and when I saw she collabed with Midas, I was like, I have to have it. And then when I saw the palette, I bought the whole darn collection. I actually just decluttered the blush highlight combo thing that she released as well. I'm just gonna be honest though, even though these shimmers are what has made me hold on to this palette, because they are so, I love a good chunky metallic shimmer. They're so beautiful. Like this shade Dofa right here. Oh my gosh. It's like the most beautiful chocolatey brown with like the most beautiful purple red reflect in it. Like, look at these shimmers. They're gorgeous, right? And even these mattes, like they're beautiful. Pigmented, rich. My issue lies though with the fact, I'm gonna be like, my issue lies though with the fact that these colors don't look good on me. Like these hot pinks, they don't look really great on me, and they're just not my favorite eyeshadow color to work with. You'll notice that throughout my collection. I don't have a lot of these like hot pinks because they don't look good on me. I do love the shade Warrior though, because it's like a red. It's so pretty. But again, I say that when I'm wearing like a really berry red tone look today, but they don't, like warmer tone reds and pinks and purples don't look very good on me. The shimmers are fine because they're like a nice light base, but the mattes, I can't get a lot of use out of this palette. So I'm gonna declutter it. Sadly, I'm gonna declutter it. I have to go to a barbecue after this at my brother's, and he's gonna be like, what happened to you? All right, and then this was such a disappointment for me, whereas like the Smoky Glow one, the shadows performed really beautifully, really nice. Love the Oop, that was another issue I had. All of the pans were falling out on me. But the Smoky Glow one performed really well for me, whereas everyone hyped up the Midas Flower Bomb palette. And looking at this, this is me. Like, this is me. I love color. I love blues. I love greens, like these minty shades. I love these warm oranges. I probably wouldn't get a lot of use out of like this shade here, but I've tried this palette a few times, and it's so weird because the shadows feel like they're gonna work really well, like when you swatch them, and even looking at them, they're so pigmented and beautiful. And I don't know, like this glitter formula is really weird. Like, I'm not a big fan of glitter in eyeshadow palettes, but like the Colourpop glitter shadows are not bad. I don't like these. They fall, they flake, and the mattes just are so patchy. They don't blend together nicely. I've tried packing it on, I've tried blending, I've tried everything, and they just don't perform for me. I don't know if there's a trick to this palette because so many people love this palette, but it's just not for me. I don't know if I got a bad one. It's a no for me. So I'm gonna declutter the Flower Bomb palette. Finally, I've been wanting to do that for so long. Like the first time I tried it, I knew I didn't like it. And then I tried it a few more times and it just, no. All right, we have Nabla. This one's gonna be hard for me because I really do like Nabla, but I'm trying to be as cutthroat as possible, and I already feel like I'm keeping a lot. This quad I just recently got. This is their Ruby Lights glitter palette. This is so beautiful. Like, it's so pretty. These stick on the eye really well with a glitter glue, without a glitter glue. They make great toppers. They just add a little bit of oomph to an eye look. I just can't get enough of them. Definitely keeping. This is newer to me. I'm so glad that I got it. Also, another thing I really love about this quad is that you can sheer the glitter out on the eyes, so it's just like a little sheer wash of glitter, or you can really build it up like intensity wise, and like this one is just so beautiful. They look so basic like in the pan, but on the eyes they're just so stunning. All right, so I have two different cutie palettes. I used to have more, but I decluttered some of them like a while ago. This is the Midnight palette, which is a blue tone palette. This palette is stunning. It has that more navy blue to it. Oh, it's so pretty. And then it has like this icy blue to it. Oh my gosh. And then this biatch, definitely keeping her. This is another reason why I decluttered the Dose of Colors, because this blue is so similar to that Dose of Colors palette, but it's so much more vibrant and beautiful. So definitely keeping this. I love Nabla. This is going to be hard to get rid of any of them. Nabla's eyeshadow formula is just so gorgeous. This is the Platinum Cutie palette, which is like a more leaning cool toned palette. You got like these cooler neutral browns, and then you have like this like silver, this true silver. This is like a gray silver, a true silver, like more of like a bronze, champagne-y color, and then more of like a true bronze. Oh, so pretty. Definitely keeping this. These metallics are out of this world. The mattes from Nabla always blend beautifully. Oh, it's gonna be hard to get rid of any of these. All right, the Dreamy 2 palette. Oh, I don't know. I don't really use this. This kind of reminds me of Dofa from the Smoky Glow palette. Very similar. I actually think the Dofa one is a lot more richer from the Midas one though. See, I'm more apt to like keep a palette for the shimmers because I have mattes everywhere. I actually think I'm gonna declutter the Dreamy 2 palette. It is really pretty, but like it's nothing super unique compared to other Nabla palettes. So I actually think I'm gonna declutter this. Go me, I love their packaging. Y'all, that one was really hard, the Dreamy 2 palette. This is the Nabla Secret palette. Again, I love the packaging. Their packaging is beautiful. This is another one I don't reach for a ton. I've used this more than the Dreamy 2 palette. I do love that there's like this row of neutrals. I do like that there's a black. I don't always use black eyeshadow, but I like to have it as an option, and I don't have many palettes that have a black in it. And then I like that you can go super soft up here with a little bit of pink and like more mauve-y, if that makes sense. And then we have like this pop over here with like these teals and everything. I just feel like so many palettes are structured this way. Oh, I don't know though. Their shimmers are so pretty. But like, do I need it? That one's really unique. That's the thing, is that they do have some unique shimmers. And their mattes do blend really nice. Oh, I love that color. Oh, this one's hard. I'm gonna put this in a maybe pile. This is my first maybe, because it's so pretty. All right, we have these 2 palettes just chilling here by themselves. First, we have this Sigma Untamed palette. This is the only palette I've ever tried from Sigma. When I saw this, I'm not a big fan of this velvet packaging. I'm not a big fan of velvet. It makes me cringe. But when I saw this, it was right before they released it. I was so drawn in because of these 2 shades right here. I'm going to tell you point blank period. These 2 shades next to each other always get me. And I'm going to be honest, the palette itself is really beautiful. The mattes are super creamy, super pigmented. The shimmers are nothing like too mind-blowing. Like they're meh, but the mattes in here are so beautiful. I just don't think that this is the Sigma palette for me. If you guys can recommend a good Sigma palette for me, let me know in the comments. I was super drawn to this because it kind of reminded me of Subculture, but I just don't use it. And if I want like this kind of vibe here, I can achieve that in other eyeshadow palettes that I own, that I actually reach for. And this still has a lot of life and love left in it, so I'm gonna give it to someone who will appreciate it. This palette is not going anywhere. I have done so many declutters of eyeshadows. This is probably the oldest palette in my collection, and I love it. This is the Colored Raine Queen of Hearts palette. I have it on my eyes today. It is so gorgeous. Like, you will never get a bad eyeshadow look from this palette. It is so pigmented, so buttery. The mattes blend beautifully. Like I was saying, I don't want like to have to spend a lot of time blending my eyeshadow, and these just blend seamlessly. Like today, all I did was put this on my outer V, blended it into the crease with this shade, and then I added this on my outer V area and this on my center and inner, and then I put this in my inner corner, and it just looks stunning. Like y'all saw my eyeshadow in the beginning of this. Every time I use this, I get a beautiful eye look, whether I want to stay really soft and subtle or I want to amp it up a little bit. I just love the diversity of this palette. I think it's so beautiful, and I'm definitely keeping this for ever until it goes bad, and then I'll repurchase it, to be honest. So good, such a staple. Love this palette. Again, this is the oldest palette in my collection. I love this so freaking much. Actually, in my last like big eyeshadow palette declutter, I kept this over my ABH Modern Renaissance because this is just so much better than the ABH Modern Renaissance in my humble opinion. All right, let's get into some Violet Voss shadows, and I have this Michaela Glamlight palette. This one I know I'm keeping. This is the Violet Voss Fun Size Berry Burst palette. This is super old for me too. I think I got this in a BoxyCharm or something years ago, and I love it. This is my go-to travel palette. The shimmers in here are so beautiful. Violet Voss makes such a stunning matte formula and shimmer formula. I love her formula so much. Like her actual original formula, we'll talk about that in a second. I'm definitely keeping this. I'm surprised I haven't hit pan on this because I've used and abused this palette. This is like one of my most used palettes in my collection. It's so good. I love it. Definitely keeping it. Now, this palette I do not like. I honestly only swatched it and I could tell instantly that it wasn't Violet Voss's formula. And I wanted it because I wanted a more purple toned palette. By the way, if you guys know of a good like all purple palette or mainly purple palette, please let me know because I am on the hunt for the perfect one. This just did not swatch very well. I don't want to swatch it again because my hands are kind of gross and I want to be able to pass this on to somebody that would utilize it. The colors are just very muted. They're not what I thought. The shimmers are not the Violet Voss shimmers. Like even if you look at these two palettes next to each other, you can tell that there's a big texture difference looking at the two of these palettes. So it's just not the Violet Voss formula that I know and love, and it makes me really sad because I feel like I would have loved this, like the color story of this, but I'm gonna declutter her. Next up, I have the Violet Voss Pro Eyeshadow hashtag palettes. This is another good palette. I got this from a BoxyCharm, I believe. It's so good. The shimmers in here are the Violet Voss, true Violet Voss shimmer formula. They're so beautiful. The mattes, the purples in here are stunning. They're so pigmented, but they blend out really well. You can get like these warmer looks if you want them. I love a good orange and berry mixture. You guys saw that. You get a black in here. You get some beautiful yellow, golden, bronzy, metallic shades, and they go a little bit more like true orange, and then you get like these purpley tones. It's just so beautiful. This looks like a little orange sunset. It's just such a beautiful palette. I was gonna declutter this, but like now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, do I want to declutter it? I mean, it's old. That's like the only thing that scares me. Like, I mean, the texture seems fine. Oh, I don't know. This is gonna be a maybe. I just don't reach for large palettes anymore, to be honest. So I'm gonna put in the maybe. All right, and then this is newer to me. I haven't bought a ton. I shouldn't say I haven't bought a ton of new eyeshadow palettes. In the last year, I've bought maybe 10. And this was one of them. I like Michaela. I know people don't like her. She's a New Englander. I think she's doing great things, and she collabed with Glamlight for this palette. I love this palette. Before I had this palette, I always gravitated towards another big palette I'm going to talk about in a little bit, who is also a collaboration with a different brand though. And now this is my staple. The shimmers in here are beautiful. This is my first time trying Glamlight. The mattes in here are amazing, like quality. They blend out beautifully. I love every look that I've gotten with this. I've gotten some really pretty purple looks with this. I love it so much. Some really pretty greens. I haven't played with the blues too much. But yeah, this is just a really good, cohesive, beautiful palette. I think every color in here is unique enough to be in here. It's not like a palette that's just jammed together just to sell. I think it was very thoughtfully done, and I really enjoy it a lot, and I love the packaging. And I'm not a big fan of big palettes. Like, you'll see that I don't have a ton of big palettes like this, but this one is so good. And I mean, this packaging is so cute. When she released this, I bought the whole collection, and I actually like the whole collection. I just didn't use the lashes because I don't wear lashes like ever. So now that I'm looking at my eyeshadow palettes I'm keeping, I think I am gonna declutter these. even though they were in a maybe pile. I'm gonna declutter them just because I still have quite a few eyeshadows to go through, and I know I have other colors like these in my collection. Trying to be cutthroat, doing my best. All right, so I have these two Melt palettes. Melt is very hit or miss for me. I did buy all of their 420 collections for a while. I used to have their Gemini palette, I decluttered that. I also had their Smoke Sessions palette, I decluttered that. Kind of sad I did now because the Smoke Sessions palette is kind of up my alley now. But this is the 420 palette. I feel like I'm missing a palette for some reason. I love the packaging on this with the shatter. I do really love the shades in here. They're all mattes except for this one shimmer, which I'm not a fan of. It's like nothing and it already has hard pan. That's another issue with Melt, is their palettes get hard pan really easily. But like these are so pigmented, these neon colors, and you have more of these grungy tones, and they blend so nicely. They're super pigmented. I really love the mattes in this palette, so I'm gonna keep it. And actually, looking at this palette, there was another palette that's coming up that I was going back and forth about decluttering, and now that I'm looking at this, I'm like, yep, you can declutter it. But we'll talk about that in a second. I also have the Mary Jane Melt Cosmetics palette, and I like this because it's cool toned, and if you can't tell, I don't own a lot of cool toned shadows. I do think some of these, like these two shades, are so similar. The browns in here are very similar in my opinion as well, but I really do think that this is a really pretty palette. The mattes in here are really good as well, pigmented, they blend really well, so I'm gonna keep this. Plus the packaging is everything. I'm curious if any of you guys have tried the new Gemini 2 palette by them. I haven't heard anything about it yet, like good or bad, but it is intriguing me more than the original Gemini palette. The Gemini 2 is more up my alley, so let me know if you guys have tried it and what you think about it. It's just Melt is so hit or miss for me. Like, it's so expensive, and I don't live near a Sephora where I can walk and return something. So, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. All right, we have the Urban Decay Stone Vibes palette. I love the packaging on this. This is another one that Andrea made me buy. She didn't make me buy it, but you know what I mean, Jelly Bean. I love this palette. I love that you get 4 staple neutral tones. You get a nice brush in here, and these shimmers are gorgeous. They're so freaking pretty. They don't look like a lot, but some of them are more like topper shades, but I promise you they are so pretty. They're so unique. Plus my fingers are kind of gross right now and stained, but it is so pretty. I got it on sale. I'm really glad I did. It's such an easy, like, 2 eyeshadow look palette, or like you don't have to think. You don't have to think when you use this palette, right? You can just like throw this in the crease or this in the crease and then pop one of these shimmers or metallics on, or you can just throw one of these all over the lid, or you can deepen it up a little bit and make it a little bit more sultry. Like, there's a lot you can do with this palette, but you don't have to think too much about it, which is what I like. And honestly, if the packaging wasn't so bulky, this would be my go-to travel And honestly, if the packaging wasn't so bulky, this would be my travel palette every time I travel, because there is so much like diversity in this palette and you don't have to think about it. But sadly, it is bulky, but it's so pretty. All right, we're getting to the harder shadows now. So I have this Sugarpill capsule collection palette. I don't know which one this was. I bought it though, my daughter got into it, and I honestly am gonna declutter it and just give it to my daughter because I don't think I've ever used it. And again, these, like, I don't know why I bought this. These purple, bright, warm tone purples, not up my alley. These shimmers are really pretty though, but they're nothing super unique for me. I have these greens and other palettes, blues, and this is a blush. So I just feel like they'll get better use out of it, my kids. All right, and then I have the Fun Size 1 and 2 from Sugarpill. I love these. They are all matte, colorful palettes. These are great for like all over the lid colors. These are great for, you know, a pop of color in the inner corner. Don't mind my kids screaming. Some brands like to repeat colors when they do palettes like this, so I'm just really glad that it's different tones. I love these. These are great. Like, highly recommend them. That's why I got the capsule palette, because I fell in love with these so much. But these aren't going nowhere. Look at the packaging. It's so cute. I love cats. Cats and owls all day long. Who doesn't love an owl? All right, here's my massive stack of Pat McGrath palettes. Now, I have gotten most of these, actually all of these this year. The most palettes I bought this year are from Pat McGrath. The first one I want to talk about is the Pat McGrath Bridgerton. Now, they did come out with a number 2, which I wanted, but they had a lot of repeat shades, which is one con to Pat McGrath palettes, is she does a lot of repeats. But these are so, I've never seen the show Bridgerton. Let me know if it's worth watching. You guys know I don't really watch TV, but this palette is so beautiful. I love it. The shimmers are beautiful. The like satin mattes are really beautiful. I just love Pat McGrath's formula, and now that I've gotten a taste of it, I want all of her palettes. I know they're expensive, but I'm gonna be honest, I am gonna declutter one of these Pat McGrath palettes, but we'll talk about that. But I don't want to let go of any of them because they're all so good. This is the palette that made me fall in love with Pat McGrath palettes. This is the Utopian palette. And y'all already know this purple. Oh my gosh. I'm telling you, once you try a Pat McGrath palette, I usually get them on sale, but once you try them, I'm telling you, you're not going to go back. They are so pretty. Like, I could probably declutter all of my eyeshadow palettes and just keep Pat McGrath palettes. I'm definitely keeping this one. It is so pretty. That purple shade alone, oh, it's juicy, it's good. And there's just something about her formula, the mattes, effortless blend, so creamy, so pigmented. The shimmers, they're just all such unique formulas. She has like these toppers, these chunky duochromes, and she has like these more metallic, standard metallics, but even those are just, oh, they're so freaking pretty, you guys. Oh, so good. This is the Pat McGrath, I think you say Subverse. I'm saying it wrong, but again, beautiful shimmers, beautiful formula. Definitely not getting rid of this. It's so stunning. I mean, just look at that gorgeousness. All right, so remember when I said that they accidentally sent me a palette that wasn't the one I ordered? This was the one they accidentally sent me, which is Divine Rose, sorry. Divine Rose. I believe this is Divine Rose. Oh, I might have them wrong. I'm just not like super impressed with this palette. It's not my favorite. It's more muted. I'm probably gonna declutter this one. No, I am. I'm not probably, I am. Then we have this beauty. This is the Midnight Sun palette, which, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. I feel like I keep saying that, but Pat McGrath really does have an outstanding formula. The only thing is that her mattes repeat a lot. The shimmers usually change, but the mattes are almost always duplicates, which I really don't mind because you usually don't get very many mattes. You get more shimmers, so I'm okay with that. Definitely keeping her. Now, this is a Pat McGrath holiday palette, which I highly recommend. If you don't want to spend $125 on one of these and you don't want to wait for a sale, get one of these during the holidays. These are like 80 bucks. You get a ton of shadows. They're absolutely gorgeous. Pat McGrath formula. I love this palette so much. It's so beautiful. One of the reasons, besides the really effortless way of being able to use Pat McGrath eyeshadows, another reason why I really love Pat McGrath shadows is because they last on the darn eyeballs. When we get into the Colourpop eyeshadows, there's a reason why I'm decluttering like all of my Colourpop shadows, because when you originally put Colourpop shadows on the eyes, they're beautiful, but they don't last but a few hours. Whereas even without a eyeshadow primer, Pat McGrath shadows last all day, and that's what I care about, especially if I'm filming all day, TikToks. or I'm out doing a photo shoot for Instagram, you know, I need my makeup to last all day, or if I'm on a live stream or what have you, I need it to last all day. And Pat McGrath is one of those brands that I know when I put their makeup on, it's gonna last me all day. 18 hours, looking beautiful, looking flawless, not a crease in sight. Definitely not going nowhere. I want you guys to guess right now how many palettes out of, we'll say 50 palettes, it was like 50 or 53, something like that, I've actually decluttered and how many I've kept. I'm kind of upset with myself because I feel like I've kept way more already than I should have. Now we have 3 palettes from Lunar Beauty, and I freaking love Lunar Beauty. Like, this is the OG Life's a Drag palette, and a part of me wants to hold on to this for nostalgic reasons. I created some of the most beautiful rainbow looks with this palette. I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't a huge fan of this side of this palette. I thought that the neutrals in here, even though they feel really nice, they really didn't do much for me. This black wasn't super great either. This like minty kiki shade is really pigmented when you swatch it, but it blends out to almost nothing on the eyes. But like all these other shades, like these shimmers are really pretty. I do think he's upgraded his formula since this, and this is such an old palette. I'm gonna declutter this, even though a part of me does want to hold on to it again because of nostalgic reasons. Like, look at the change in his packaging. So much has changed in his brand, and I feel like he has a cohesive like brand now from this, you know what I mean, Jelly Bean? Even though this packaging is stunning, don't get me wrong, but like I just feel like this is more Manny MUA, you know what I mean, Jelly Bean? I've literally washed my hands and I'm still covered in glitter. I did have body glitter on today, but like, oh. All right, so we have the Lunar Beauty Moon Spell palette. I love this palette. Talking about beautiful purples, like I've almost hit pan on this shade Phoebe. It's so beautiful. I feel like this lighting is not doing these colors justice. I mean, they are so gorgeous. Doesn't help that my fingers are gross. And these greens in here are everything. They're so pigmented. This purple is really pretty, even though I don't reach for it too much. And this pink is like, it's like a purple pink. So it's not too warm and hot pink to where I wouldn't use it. The shimmers in here are beautiful though. I've almost hit pan on Samantha and Phoebe. Such a good palette. Definitely holding on to. Plus the packaging is everything. Look at wipe my swatch off towel right now. Oh, it's so gross. Then we have the wonderful Lunar Beauty Ethereal Eclipse palette. Another really beautiful palette. I love that this is more cool toned. I love this, like, it's like a blue, green, teal, but it's got like, I don't know, some gray to it. It's so beautiful. I love this shade Smoke. It's so unique. And it looks so good on the eyes. The shimmers are beautiful. I honestly haven't used these more neutral shades too much. I've more or less just kind of stayed in this realm and used the shimmers because I have these in like every palette, these types of shades. But again, I really thoroughly do enjoy this palette. I'm gonna be honest though, I probably could get rid of this, which is weird because I have a brand new one of these sitting in my unopened makeup thing right now too. Oh, I probably could get rid of this because I like my, hold on one second. Like if I look at my Nabla palette, it has very similar like silver, you know, and these like more neutral brown, cooler tone browns. The only thing that's really keeping me is this smoke color, and I have like these types of shades in other palettes, but should I keep one palette for one shade? No, I actually think I'm gonna declutter this, even though the packaging is stunning. Yeah, I'm gonna declutter it. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm doing that. Woo, go me! All right, last but not least, the Colourpop pile. A lot of this is getting decluttered, I'm not gonna lie. So we have the Hello Kitty. This is the yellow quad. I actually really like this quad. You're obviously gonna get the same types of looks, but I don't have any like really beautiful yellow shimmers, and this palette is actually not that bad. The mattes are really nice. I like that you know, you get like a more deeper, different toned yellow matte. I like that there's no glitter in this quad because Colourpop has a tendency to put glitter in their quads. I don't know why. And these for Colourpop shadows actually hold pretty well on the eyes for a significant amount of time. So I actually think I'm gonna hold on to this until I can find like a better yellow palette. Oh, the Mint to Be palette. I do really like this palette, and a part of me wants to hold on to it because I don't have a lot of tones like these. Like I do have this and like this, but like shimmer wise and everything, like these are so pretty. Again, they don't last on the eye very long though. That's the thing. Like the shimmers are all right, but I'm gonna declutter it. Because I might get the Natasha Denona pastel palette, and I feel like I could get, like I have the Natasha Denona Circo Loco palette, and they have some of these similar tones in it as well, so I think I'm going to get rid of it. Yeah, I'm going to declutter it. This is a palette I love, and they don't sell anymore. I love it because it's cool toned and I get the most beautiful looks out of this palette. Now this shade completely shattered on me when I first bought it. So I've honestly only used like a few of these. Like I've used the white. I've mainly done matte looks with this where I've used this, and this color. And that was what kind of drew me into the Lime Crime palette that I showed you guys earlier. But I'm going to declutter this. I'm going to declutter it. So earlier I mentioned with the 420 from Melt that I was thinking about decluttering another palette, and then when I opened the 420 by Melt, I realized, okay, yes, I'm definitely decluttering it, and that is Little Ray of Sunshine by Colourpop. I originally got this because that yellow, it spoke to me. These aren't bad, they just don't last on the eyes. This is an all matte palette. It's very basic, but I knew that when I bought it, I wanted something that was more warmer toned with that yellow, and it is a really pretty palette, but again, it does not last on the eyes, and I can get very similar very similar tones from this palette and other palettes that I have in my collection. Like I have all of these shades in my collection somewhere else in matte form, and they last and perform better on the eyes. So I'm gonna get rid of this Colourpop Little Ray of Sunshine. Oh, that's so taupe. This is a really beautiful palette as well. This is so hard for me because I know they don't last on the eyes, and Colourpop gets me like that because it does. It looks so beautiful, but then again, when you go to put it on the eyes, it's like, you can tell I really like that shade. Oh, there's that. I need to find a palette with this type of shade in it where it actually stays on the eyes. But yeah, I'm gonna declutter this. Ooh. Does Colourpop shadows do that for any of you guys where it just doesn't last on the eyes super long, like a work shift, it creases, it just like somehow disappears on your eyes? Is it just me? I need to know. So this one I'm probably going to keep just because I don't have a ton of greens, these types of greens in my eyeshadow palette collection. This is the Tinkerbell Sprinkle a Little Magic Colourpop palette, and this is really beautiful. You have like this more brighter green, you have this deeper like forest green, super pretty, and then you have these like metallic greens. But again, even swatching it and feeling it, I know it's not gonna last on the eyes. Like I just know it's not. So like, why keep it? Why keep it when I could give this to like a kid or something and they're gonna love it because it's Tinkerbell and they don't care how long the eyeshadow lasts on their eyes. You know what I mean, Jelly Bean? I'm gonna declutter it. I'm gonna freaking do it. I'm decluttering it. Did it. I did it. 2 more palettes left, and they're both Colourpop. Can you guess what 2 palettes are left? If you made it this far, leave me a crystal ball emoji. Like a really cool crystal ball emoji. It will keep up with the theme. Or like an evil eye emoji or a snake or something like witchy. All right, so the Lizzie McGuire. I bought this strictly for nostalgic reasons. I'm not gonna sit here and try to BS you. I loved Lizzie McGuire as a kid. I never had cable TV until my grandmother got custody of me and my brother when I was a teenager, freshly a teenager, 13. And I was already living out on my own and everything when my grandmother got custody of us. And I fell in love with Lizzie McGuire. Like, I wanted to be Lizzie McGuire. Didn't we all want to be Lizzie McGuire? And I love that it's called What Dreams Are Made Of. The palette, though. I don't know why I thought I would like this. Again, nostalgia. These, again, meh. I have these. Like, the shimmers in here are nothing too great. I don't even want to swatch it because, like, I don't even know if I did swatch it. Maybe I did. It doesn't look like I did, to be honest. So I'm just going to give this to somebody else. Maybe there's somebody, I know a lot of people, like, in my, not everyday life, but that, like, I know that love Colourpop. And a lot of single moms that love Colourpop that I know that, like, can't afford it. So I think I'm going to give a lot of my, like, Colourpop palettes to them. I like to send little care packages to, like, single moms and stuff that love makeup. Last but not least, So Jaded, Kathleen Lights and Colourpop. I've held on to this for so long. The packaging is everything on this. And when I was talking about a Michaela Glamlight palette earlier, I was talking about, like, how I used to have a palette that had all my colors, like one big palette that I always held on to and never had another one. Well, that was this palette, and it's been beaten out. It's been beaten out by the Glamlight Michaela palette because the Glamlight shadows just not only perform better, they're more pigmented, and they last on the eyeballs. I have a love-hate relationship with Colourpop because, like, their products expire super fast, in my opinion. Lip products, face products, basically any product from them, and their eyeshadows just don't last on the eyeballs. And I'm gonna be honest, even though there's so much color going on here, like these pops of color, I mainly get the same look when I use this. I usually use these two shades, and then I throw like this one on my lid, or I put some of this one on my lid. I've used like these blue tones. They're not awful, but again, they don't last on the eyes. These glitters though, I actually really like these glitters in here. They're really nice. They're emollient. They stick to the eye. You don't need a glitter glue. Super pretty. I don't even think I've touched these greens, which is so odd for me because I love green eyeshadow. Every time I pick this up though, I go for the same type of look. Like usually these warmer tones, it's just too much for me. And like there's a lot of like more muted colors in here. It's just a no for me. Somebody else will appreciate this so much more. So I'm gonna declutter her. All right, I'm gonna figure out and show you guys what I'm keeping, what I'm decluttering. Oh, I still feel like I could get rid of more, to be honest. Ooh. So I'm pretty proud of myself for like how much I've decluttered. I just feel like I could declutter more than what I have. So I'm gonna open up some of the palettes I decided to save. I'm gonna open them all up on my counter, like right here, the space that I have, and I'm gonna look at them all and see if I can minimize even more because I just want a smaller collection. I'm so overwhelmed. Like even looking at how many palettes I'm deciding to keep, I'm still a little overwhelmed, like I'm not gonna lie. So that's what I'm gonna do really quickly. All right, so after going through the palettes that I decided to keep, I decided to declutter 3 more. I'm actually going to end up decluttering the e.l.f. jalapeno palette. It is really beautiful, but like I just have not used it. And like I have this palette for travel, and I'm deciding to keep this one over the e.l.f. one because I don't have this like hunter green, forest green, and any other palettes that I decided to keep after looking. And I'm actually gonna declutter this Essence palette. I'm gonna give it to my daughter because I have, where did I put her? The Cutie Midnight palette by Nabla. It's just so beautiful. And I don't wear blue eyeshadow enough. Like that's why I decluttered the Blue Blood palette like forever ago. And then I am gonna declutter the Blueberry Muffin palette because what I don't have for blue tone shades in this palette that are in here, I have in other I have them in other palettes, so I don't need this palette when I can create any look in here with this or like another palette. It's so hard because it like this shade calls to me. It's so pretty and unique, but I don't want to keep this for one palette when again my daughter loves blue eyeshadow and she would love this. So I'm gonna declutter it, all of it. I think I've decluttered more than I've kept, so I'm gonna show you guys really quickly what I've kept, what I've decluttered. I'm gonna count and show you guys like the different piles. So I decluttered 27, if I counted correctly, palettes. Pretty proud of myself, I'm gonna be honest. And if I counted correctly, I kept 25 palettes. So I'm really impressed with myself. I think I did really good. For me, this was pretty cutthroat. I'm gonna show you guys the rest of my collection, what I have it curated down to now really quickly at the end of this. Just remember, I am not a makeup channel, okay? I don't even know what my channel is anymore, to be honest with you. I kind of do a little bit of everything, but I'm not a makeup channel. I just talk. That's why it's called Talking with Tarrah. I just film whatever I want to film about, so.
Your other name is Tarrah?
Yeah, that's my name, is Tarrah.
Tarrah Taylor.
Yeah.
Wait.
So I got all of my makeup brushes right here. I still do not need this many makeup brushes, but I also don't like to wash my makeup brushes, so it's good that I have this many makeup brushes. And then I got all my foundations, all that jazz, setting sprays, all curated here, decluttered everything except for what you see here. All of this was consumed by foundation, setting powder, everything. All my powders, don't mind my dirty floors, my cats got into my plants, so there's dirt everywhere. All my powders are here. These are all my lipsticks now. Lashes, because I never wear lashes.
Same.
And then boys can wear makeup. And then in here I have like all my bronzers and contours, all my concealers, which I'm actually going to be throwing more of these away because I just, yeah. And then this is like my brow products, my eyeshadow primer.
Any of this stuff.
Not without mommy here.
Nope.
These are all my single shadows, Colourpop Super Shock shadows.
Yeah, it's only for your permission.
Glitters, eyeshadow sticks, all that jazz. Are you gonna help me? Don't pull too hard. Oh. And then the bottom drawer of this used to be all highlighters. So now my highlighters and blushes are together. I had a hard time getting rid of blush. Not so much highlighters. I did keep these Anastasia ones. I did get rid of one of the glow kits that I had, but I got all of my like stuff curated down to a little bit of stuff, and I'm super happy. So now this drawer, which I've cleaned out and is somehow still dirty, is now empty. So I'm hoping I can fit all my eyeshadow palettes in here now that I only have 25 of them.
I'm 26.
Thank you so much for watching my eyeshadow palette declutter. I really appreciate it. And yeah, if you like this, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And I'll see y'all jelly beans on the next one. Bye!
Did you see my mouth?
I did. What are you doing, weirdo? Are you ready to go for a cookout?
It's really been bleeding.
Yeah, are you ready to go for a cookout? Yeah.
Because I'll show you what happened.